Hello, everyone. This is group 2, consisting of Terita, Greta, Maria, Anders, Philippe, Branimir, Peter, Rita, and myself, Timofey. So we will discuss here the organizational implementation of the patent strategy in Vorwerk for Thermomix. And I give floor to Greta and Rita to answer on the question, what is the structure strategy fit, and what is the relation between the patent strategy and the organizational structure of the company?
So with regards to the first question, this is a complex question on the structure and strategy fit and what the relation between the patent strategy and an organizational structure is. So when we look at the global concept, we see that a valid patent strategy must fit with the organizational structure. And in this case of Thermomix, we have a differentiation patent strategy, which has to be integrated into the organization, so to fit the business strategy of the company. And in order to achieve this, they have set up a differentiation center with system interfaces. Because as we can see in a 360 IP strategy, the different parts need to interact with each other. So this needs interfaces and interconnections. So in case of Thermomix, the challenge was the work and the task distribution and the creation of the interactions of the functions and the unit, and to create optimization aspects with regards to efficiency, flexibility, goal orientation, effectiveness, and control. And what was visible from the use case is that the organization fit and the structure strategy fit is a quality question which should be regularly verified. So in the Thermomix example, we will see that we meet here with a differentiation strategy based on customer added values. They create value-added monopolies, which has an organizational requirement, a differentiation center, which is something which must be dynamic and within the corporate structure. So it's not a one-time exercise, but this should be a sustainable and long-term investment of efforts. And this is what we will see during the further slides.
Thank you, Rita. So the second question deals with the patent strategy of Vorwerk during the development of the Thermomix. As Rita would have mentioned, they chose a differentiation strategy and they have adopted a value-added monopoly approach. What they first did was identified specific customer benefits that would be perceived by the customer as a benefit. So specifically, they integrated specific recipe data. So it would guide the user when they're using it. They also paid a lot of attention to safety. So they had a very sophisticated safety system. And they also had a very intuitive user interface where the user can skip, they can pause, and they can basically interact with the machine in a different way that was not possible before. And they knew that these would be features that customers would want and that they could clearly see the benefit for it. Subsequent to that, they then created a comprehensive patent positions to prohibit the imitation of any of the underlying innovation that would exist to create these particular benefits. And my colleague Anders will take you through exactly the questions that were asked and how they actually came up with this particular patent strategy to ensure that it was comprehensive enough to protect the customer benefit that they were providing.
Thank Thank you, Terita. Yes, Terita already mentioned, they identified some customer benefits, and then the next step and the questions are, okay, which one of these or all of these potentially should we protect by patents? The first question and the consideration that they had, okay, if we try to protect this with a patent, do we get any return on the innovation from this aspect? And then you need to check and see if customers are willing to pay more or less for this premium pricing, for instance, or technical effects that you have as well. And then you also need to check the next question, if they are willing to pay for this extra customer benefits, are there any alternatives to it that you have, either technical or otherwise? That's another consideration down the path to get a patent protection in place. You also have the third question, which I think many companies forget. Do we need any marketing or other services around this to make it work? And if so, should we then apply a patent for the whole solution, or to do other type of protection? And finally, maybe do competition. We use the same customer benefits, do these alternatives, so on. So another factor that decide on which patents or areas to try to patent. Next.
Next, we're going to talk about which processes and organizational components did Vorwerk implement to create a fit with this strategy. And first of all, the strategic fit as such implies that a successful strategy must be consistent with both the firm's external and internal environment. And this calls for the cross-functional approach. In particular, it's about the link between the strategic goals, the processes, and tools for managing patents. And additionally, it should include also a variety of other areas, such as, for example, the innovation management, corporate strategy, marketing, product management, controlling, and so on. And Branimir will talk further about the core elements of this. Branimir?
Yeah, thank you again. Thank you. Unmuting would help. Thank you, Maria. So for the core elements to proceed, it's important that if we want to have an integrated approach and an integrated look, it needs to comprise the elements which would have the strategic, which would consider the strategic objectives. So in this case, in the case of Vorwerk, their strategic objectives is to create the greatest possible uniqueness in what they would be in what they would be creating. Further, the process landscape, which would be the need for those patents to create those unique selling propositions for the future products or services, and this is a central process which as a differentiation center for them. Next. It needs to be important. It's important to look at the tool landscape. So, which would be the methods and the software-based support, which would be quite important to have the execution and the linking of those processes. And further on, there is also the information architecture, which helps to any kind of solutions and structures. Which are available for the company to have a search on various components. Another key aspect for such a patent management is to include the personnel and the know-how, as well also as the financial resources which are important and need to be available to perform that. And finally, the reporting and controlling, which actually helps to link information which is quite disparative between themselves, and that's actually to link the costs of the development and obtaining of a patent with actual return on that. So, with what could be the customer's willingness to pay for this product which has been protected, or let's say for this feature technical feature which has been protected with a particular patent. And as a result of all those core elements, one would have such a meaningful and activities which will be interrelated and to combine to the effectiveness of the goals which the company would want to achieve. Thank you. Moving on.
And lastly, we come to how organizational requirements are affected by the 360-degree strategy that has been adopted by Vorwerk. And Rita has already outlined that in organizational terms, the company created a differentiation center. This was used to drive a differentiation strategy. And the key point about a differentiation strategy is that it's focusing, on customer relevant USPs. So it's all about the customer. In terms of the 360-degree strategy, if we look at the present segment, managing risks, we're looking at what is our freedom, to action, what is our freedom to operation, how do we control risks, and particularly risks from third-party rights, while at the same time creating our own value creation architecture. How do we deliver on this IP strategy? In terms of suppressing imitation and looking at the past segment of the 360-degree strategy, we're going to use our existing resources. We're going to use the resources that we have already had in developing previous iterations of this product. It's essentially what might be described as looking back in the past, but looking back in the past to deliver on the future. And so we involve our market experts in protecting our USP, for instance, sound features and so on. And then moving on to designing market position. In this instance, we're trying to establish the goals that we need to achieve in order to enter into the market. How do we create a unique position within the market? How do we suppress imitations within the market, but from potential competitors? And how do we use IP to communicate these product differentiations in the market? And then lastly, when we looking at communicating the IP, whatever else, how do we create our IP portfolio with a set of prohibitive rights, but at the same time they're not so prohibitive that they cause our end customers to shy away from our market, but they cause our competitors to see that we have a defensible, carved out, prohibitive position in the market. So we're in unique value position, unique market position in the market. Thank you.